In the Neolithic period, there was a great deal of commerce in Sardinia, and Gallura played an important role in this as a bridgehead in the network of relationships with the world outside the island, due to its thousands of years of connections with Corsica. A precious volcanic black glass obsidian, which is found on Monte Arci in Sardinia, became the basis of wealth and cultural richness. This material was used to produce weapons and tools because it was sharp, durable, and easy to work. It made the name of Sardinia well known throughout the Mediterranean basin. The Bronze Age brought profound changes to Sardinian culture. The trading routes changed due to the circulation of metals, and as a result, so did the island's cultural links. Beginning in 1600 BC, this wealth of experience and contacts became the basis of the development of the rich and original Nuragic Civilization, which existed only in Sardinia. The megalithic culture developed and spread during this phase, manifesting itself in new and original construction techniques. More than 7,000 towers provide evidence of the development of this civilization throughout Sardinia, and today they still dot the landscape. A nuraghi is a civil construction which, in its most elementary form, consists of a truncated conical tower constructed from rows of horizontal stones, with an inside chamber with a tholos. The Greek term tholos indicates the false dome, formed by the gradual narrowing of the rows of stones towards the top without the use of a keystone to the vault. The Albuchu Nuraghi is located in the western part of the Gallura plain, in the centre of a clearly defined geographical area. This nuraghi is of a mixed type and thus different from those described above. It combines the structural characteristics of the tholos nuraghi with the corridor nuraghi. The latter is a type more frequently found in Gallura. Next to the tholos chamber on the ground floor, there is a corridor with steps which runs from the entrance, along the long face of the building, then through the structure, and finally arrives at a terrace. From here it passes through the largest dwelling area of the nuraghi, an area originally closed with a false dome. During excavations, fireplaces, saucepans for boiling milk, pastry boards for bread and jars for conserving food were discovered, all of which are evidence of an agricultural and pastoral economy. In addition, pieces and strands of cloth were found which show that weaving was also practiced there. On the western side, the whole structure rests upon a granite outcrop, which is included in the wall. In the northwest, there is the upper chamber of a tower which was originally accessible by means of a staircase at the back of the building. On the terrace, archaeologists found a bronze statuette of a person at prayer, and a small jar containing pieces of copper and bronze. Among these were fragments of an Aegean ingot which had probably been conserved to be melted down again into a new ingot. Originally, the top of the building had a wooden parapet. This can be deduced from 8 large brackets almost in the centre of the facade of the building, which are still in their original positions. The giants' tombs are other examples of sacred monuments and collective expression of funeral rites. Arzachena contains 2 of the largest and most beautiful examples in the whole of Sardinia. The Lilolgi e Coduecchiu tombs are the result of 2 chronologically distinct construction phases, and show that the Nuragic tombs derive from the structures of the dolmens. The Lilolgi tomb dates to the early Bronze Age, about 1800 BC. The basic structure is a small covered alleyway enclosed in a long dolmen-type corridor. During the Nuragic period, an exedra, semicircular building, was added to the front. This is a distinctive element and indicates a change in the type of rituals that were performed there. In the Exedra, the community performed ceremonies connected with the cult of the dead, which were an important part of their social cohesion. The presence of a great deal of pottery is evidence of ritual meals being consumed here. The smashing of the pottery may have been a symbolic rite of passage from life to death. The Kodu Ekyu giant's tomb was also constructed in two phases. An exedra was added to a long sepulchral corridor originally covered in earth and gravel. It was a communal tomb designed to be used for most of the inhabitants of the village. The absence of personal possessions near the bodies, or any distinctive element, seems to indicate that the society was non-hierarchical, at least in death. One of the stones covering the corridor would be removed, and then the bodies placed in the funeral chamber from above. The Lilolgi and Kodu Ekyu giants' tombs faced east towards where the sun, and thus life, originates. The Bronze Age Nuragic temple of Malkitu is situated on the plateau which lies to the north of the plain where the Albuchu Nuragi is found. The temple lies inside a river gorge and dominates the valley below. One approaches the temple by means of a path which leads through fallen rocks, vegetation and the ruins of other Nuragic structures, all of which add to the sense of the place being holy. This sense of sanctity is due not to the grandeur of the building, but rather to the surrounding nature, the seclusion of the site, the way it dominates the surrounding area, and the intensity of the light that filters through the thick foliage. The building is in the form of a quadrilateral, with side walls that are longer than those of the front and back. The entrance is typical of the Nuragic Megaron temples found in Sardinia. The temple is divided into two distinct parts, an atrium and an internal chamber. Originally, they both had sloping double roofs made of wood. The religious significance of the site, explicit in the structure, does not seem to be connected to any particular cult. Probably it was a communal sanctuary, or perhaps better, a meeting place for the Nuragic community of the area. In the Capicera region, near the Kodu Ekyu giant's tomb, archaeologists are excavating the La Prigiona Nuragi. This complex structure is the reference point for a vast area. It is a large village of about 100 huts and covers an area of 5 hectares. Originally, the central tower had an upper floor, but today only a terrace exists, which is reached by means of an internal staircase. The principal tower, which rose above the nearby buildings, was surrounded by a turreted bastion, and this must have been of a most majestic aspect. A well that can still be used to this day has been found in the wide internal courtyard, surrounded by a wall. The excavations have uncovered imposing walls, and inside them one can reconstruct important aspects of the way of life of the inhabitants. Apart from the complex furniture of the meeting hut, some other buildings also clearly had specialized functions. They were perhaps workshops dedicated to particular activities: the conservation of food in large and robust containers, the repairing of vases with lead, baking bread in a crude brick oven, and the milling and conservation of cereals. The excavated structures show the different phases of construction and the expansion and contraction of the village, which was inhabited from the Middle Bronze Age in the 14th century BC to the 9th century BC. Here we see restoration work under the supervision of the Archaeological Board on material from the excavations of the La Prigiona Nuragi in the well-equipped laboratory in Arzachena. Here they are carefully reconstructing, from more than 600 fragments, a large food container which was found inside one hut. All the phases of restoration, the cleaning, the search for pottery fragments, the reassembly of the archaeological finds, are being carried out with particular patience and care by the workers who are recreating the artifacts. In this way, they are also recuperating fragments of the way of life and civilization and allowing it to be admired by us today.